Hi, my name is Eric Schaffer, and I'm a technical specialist with K2. Today I'll be introducing you to K2 Connect for SAP. K2 Connect for SAP is an add-on to the K2 Black Pearl Business Process Management Suite that extends the K2 Smart Object capability to talk to SAP without having to write any code. In case you are not familiar, the Smart Object concept in K2 is the ability to define virtual aggregate business objects against back-end systems through a connector framework. K2 Connect for SAP is the connector that allows an SAP resource to define K2 Smart Objects that a non-SAP resource can consume for building K2 processes, reports, forms, and much more. For the first part of this demo, I'm going to show you the Connect tooling in Visual Studio and how you can quickly build an object and service that object in an InfoPath form. Here in Visual Studio, we can see that we have two design canvases. On the right-hand side is the K2 Service Object Designer, where we are defining a network service object. And on the left-hand side, we have our Service Object Designer that allows us to browse through the SAP system that we're connected to. So when I drill through my SAP system, I'm able to actually drill into the business objects that are available from that SAP system. So in effect, the K2 Connect tooling is talking to my SAP system, figuring out what functions and BAPI methods are available on this backend system, and then allowing me to drill through them down to those methods to be able to use those. For any one of these methods, I can right-click on it and go into what we call the K2 Connect Test Cockpit. This allows me to actually load the interface for this particular BAPI method to figure out whether this is the method that's going to return the data that I'm looking for. It allows me to enter in some input parameters, and we'll see the output parameters here as well. So when I go ahead and execute this method on this network get list, we should be able to see in the return structure for the network list, we should be able to see all the networks that were returned from that SAP system. So in effect, this tooling allows you to just basically verify that the BAPI that you're connecting to is returning the type of data that you want to use for your K2 Connect business object. Going back to the design surface here, once I've identified the BAPI method that I want to use to build my business object, I can drag it onto the canvas here and add it to my service object. This will go ahead and reflect that structure definition and add a new service for me here. It's added the getList method, which I can actually drill into and see those input and output parameters. So for this particular example, I'm just going to eliminate some of those. We can also look into the structure of the network list and see what items are selected there to be returned as part of the business object. Once we've devised or designed this object the way we want it, we are able to actually then go ahead and publish it. Obviously, from this interface, we could add additional methods to the object to make it more robust. In this case, we could go ahead and just publish this particular object. The publishing is going to go ahead and connect to the K2 Connect server, and then publish a smart object to the K2 Black Pearl server. Just give that a moment to finish up. Now that the smart object has been generated, we should be able to use this business object or smart object within the concept or the context of an InfoPath form. So let's go ahead and open up an InfoPath form. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take a saved template that I have on my desktop here. I'm going to right click on it and say integrate with smart object. This integrate with smart object is available when you install the K2 design tooling on your machine. And it's going to pop open a wizard for me and allow me to add this new service object method to my InfoPath form. Go ahead and click Add. and then browse to the smart object that was created for us. And there we can see that network 2 smart object that we just published. And we're going to go ahead and just grab the getList method, which is the only method that we added to that particular service object. As I mentioned, if we added additional BAPI methods to do things like create a new network or load up a single instance of a network, those methods would be available here as well. And if we expand the getList, we can see the two items for that network return that will return when we call the getList. So I'm going to add the getList method to the smart object here, or to the InfoPath integration. Click OK. Click OK once more to finish the smart object integration wizard. And now we can actually go back in and design this InfoPath form, which is just a blank form. And if we go to the data source section of this blank form, we should see that we have a new data source available to us, which was added by that smart object. It has both input and output parameters. I'll just go ahead and grab the output parameters, drag them onto the screen here in a repeating table. And then to go ahead and make the call to the backend system, we'll add just a quick button here. In the rules of this button, all we're going to do is actually go ahead and add an action to query that data connection, the getList data connection. Now we can go ahead and preview this form. And when we click the button, it will connect to the backend system and retrieve the data. And there we can see the same data that we looked at in the K2 test cockpit has now been published or populated into our InfoPath form. Go ahead and close the InfoPath form. And now let's take a little bit more complex example. In this more complex example, I've already gone ahead and built my my service objects. I have a service object for retrieving information related to materials within SAP, and also a service object for inserting a new requisition into SAP. And using those service objects and the associated smart objects, I built a business process, albeit a fairly simple and straightforward business process, to do a manager approval using an InfoPath form around a material requisition. So where a user would go fill out a form that they need materials requisitioned, the material list is going to populate from the using the smart object in InfoPath. Once it goes through a quick approval, it's going to go ahead and assuming it's approved, it's going to go ahead and create that requisition in SAP. Just kind of highlighting the fact that not only can K2 Connect objects read from SAP, but they can also write back into SAP. Everything that you can expose through a BAPI or custom function module in your SharePoint environment or in your SAP environment is able to be consumed and used by K2 in the K2 Connect tooling. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this process looks like from the end user runtime experience. I'm going to go ahead and log into my SharePoint site here as Veronica. and just scroll down past our work list there, and let's go ahead and fire off a new material requisition. So we'll open the InfoPath form for us and allow us to fill in some sample details. Now that the form is loaded up, we can see that it's pre-populated some of Veronica's information. We can enter in some comments. Go ahead and add a description. And let's go ahead and select a plant. So this is going to filter down the list of materials for us. Now let's go ahead, when I select the plant, it's going to go ahead and retrieve the list of materials that's available for that particular plant. And now for my drop down here, we can see that all the items that are available for that particular plant are available here. Let's go ahead and select, we want some chocolate, which is always a good thing to requisition. We'll select the expected delivery date, the end of the month. The quantity, let's say we need 6, and the price per unit is 5. We'll calculate our total price, and maybe the unit is each. And we're using US dollars. We can also optionally add any additional attachments. If we had a requisition form, this form could potentially be published into a SharePoint library. I'll go ahead and click Submit here. And this will actually take and kick off that process that we were looking at and route it through for approval. One of the first things that this process is doing is actually going and updating a status list within SharePoint. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here we can see that the status list is grouped by the plant. So in plant 1100, we can see that there are 2 that are sitting in manager approval. One is our requisition for item. You can see the material ID, the plant number, the person who kicked the process off, the status, currently in manager approval. We can also get access to some of the K2 reporting, which will show us exactly where we are in this business process. And here we can see that the manager approval activity is currently active. So let's go ahead and log in as Veronica's manager, Andrew. We'll go ahead and refresh his K2 work list web part so that we see the latest task. And then we can see at the bottom he has the requisition for item that we just submitted. From this task list, Andrew could potentially open this item, redirect it, delegate the task to initial users, access that view flow diagram, or even action the item directly from within his task list. Let's go ahead and actually open the task item, which will open an InfoPath form view to show Andrew the details of the requisition. We can see that we're looking at a different view of the same form. Now we're in the manager approval state, and we can see all the details of what Veronica has entered in for the requisition, as well as the little comments history here at the bottom. We can go ahead and review the request and either approve it, decline it, or send it for rework. Let's go ahead and approve the item, and we'll go ahead and click submit to complete the task. And if we take a look at that view flow diagram, we should be able to see that the item is working on publishing into SAP. Let's check real-time monitoring here so we can watch it complete. And there we can see that the process is now completed and the requisition should have been created in SAP. If we go back and look at the material requisition status list, we should now see that in the Approved section, we'll have our requisition for item, which has now retrieved a requisition number from the SAP system. Go ahead and copy that. The other thing that we can do, because we've built smart objects against our SAP system, we have the ability to go in and use SQL reporting services to build some reports against SAP as well. So here we can see a couple of reports showing the amount of material costs for each of the different plants, the number of the material costs per user, and we also have here a drill through report, which I'll go ahead and refresh. That'll allow us to see all the different items for all the different plants, all the different requisitions that have been gone through, and what those total amounts actually are. Now that our report is refreshed, we can drill through our plant 1100. And at the bottom we should see our requisition for item that we just inserted based on for Veronica for $30. To show you that this is actually in the SAP system, let's go ahead and go into our SAP environment here. Let's log in. And let's go ahead and access our purchase requisition. And let's paste in the requisition number. And go ahead and do a search for that. And there we can see the details, requisition for item, and some of the material number information related to that particular purchase request that we just completed. And that concludes the demo of K2 Connect for SAP. If you need more information, please contact K2 at www.k2.com, and you can request a live demo.